Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, everybody, welcome back. And I'm joined by Mylin Tran. Mylin, so nice to see you again. And I'm real excited for today's program. Welcome back.
Thank you, Casey, for having me. So nice to see you too.
Thank you. For the audience who may not be familiar with your program, can you tell everybody, about the Chinese medicine, acupuncture, gua sha? I said it wrong. How do I say that one?
Yeah, no, you said it right. Gua
I did?
sha.
Oh, gua sha. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
So please, let me give you the floor. And if I just met you at waiting for a bus or something like that and ask you what you do.
Well, I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner who practices, the scope, acupuncture, acupressure, gua sha, which is a scraping technique, cupping, Chinese medicine, herbal medicine, as well as diet, nutrition, and energy medicine, which involves qigong and tai chi. Most importantly, I also practice allergy elimination technique to help people overcome their seasonal allergies, people allergies, food allergies, clothing allergies. I mean, anything under the sun. And on top of that, I do the energy work, which helps people overcome things that are not tangible, things people don't understand, what we would call the woo. Okay. And I just combine that all together based on what each and every person needs.
It's there's so many things that I want to talk, but for people who don't know about energy, or people don't think about what energy is, we all have. Can you explain how we all have and we give off some, what is it, a frequency or something? Can you get into that?
Frequencies? Yeah, so we all resonate at a certain frequency, right? Our words, our thoughts, our emotions, our body, our own body. Think of it like music, right? Tones of the sound, right? They all emit something, and you can capture that. Sound waves. We think of it in those scientific terms,
Right.
but that applies to us as well. Food, clothing, thoughts, everything has a certain energy signature. And you have a specific one yourself. So we can tap into that remotely. So, when you've walked into a room and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, it's intense in here, right?
Yeah.
You're feeling that energy. That's energy. Everybody's done it, right? Or you walk into a room and it feels nice and warm and comfy and happy. You're just like, oh, I like it here.
Without
right?
saying a word, right?
Without saying a word. You're picking up on that.
Yeah.
That's energy.
Let me ask, can we choose what we put out there? Can we choose what kind of energy we put out, or no?
Yes and no, right? Because it's based on what we're going through, what our emotions are. How good are we at keeping our energy clean? And what do we choose to put on as our show, right? Because, everybody puts on a facade when they walk out, because you go to a business meeting, you got to be, all neat and tidy and professional.
Right. You got to appear a certain way.
Yeah, but with your friends, you behave in a certain way. So in that way, yes, but there doesn't mean that there's not this underlying tone of what you're going through on a personal level that you're not showing to others. So like some people can look professional, can act all normal, but if you are doing the energy work and you're empathic, you might pick up on some subtle tones where this person seems sad, or something's worrying them, or something's off. Okay.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Like, it's like someone who is cracking jokes and has a smile, but just 2 seconds ago they learned that their wife or husband is leaving them or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the question I wanted to kind of ask you. Like, do some people just learn to fake it better, or that energy we can't help from putting it out somehow?
Yeah, so some people do fake it better. They hide it really, really well because they have squashed it down so deep, right?
Yeah.
That they put up this facade and it's really hard to penetrate. So, like every time someone tries to talk to them about something deeper, they crack a joke, or they kind of dismiss it and
Right.
divert your attention away, right?
I see.
That's because they don't want to go there.
But someone like you as an empath, could you can you feel it like even if they're putting on the great show, can you feel that there's something that they're
It
going through that they're
depends. It
hiding?
depends. It depends, right? Sometimes I can, sometimes if I'm not tapping in, I won't pick up on it. Or if it's something that is not brought to my attention by my guidance, then I might just not even think of it.
What do you mean by your guidance?
So
Something.
sometimes my guidance team, like we talked about the teams, you have a team, I have a team. So I
Yeah.
have a spiritual team that works with me every day.
Okay.
And they'll change over time based on what my needs are. But if they feel like I need to help someone, they'll say, pay attention. Sometimes you just gravitate towards certain people. You like somehow your mind or your body shifts and you're looking at them for some reason.
And that's an intuition thing. It's something you just feel, or will you
It's
hear
an
the guides
intuition
tell you?
thing. It's an intuition thing. Sometimes it's just like you don't know why you're doing it, but for some reason you decide to go to another room,
Yeah.
you know, um, and that's really guidance leading you, right? Or
Okay.
you decide, I'm going to go to this concert tonight and you meet the love of your life, whatever it is, right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's those kind of things. Sometimes it's spontaneous. Sometimes it just happens.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Now, we're going to get to this awesome topic today, but before we get there, can you just tell me about uh, what people need to understand about energy healing? What is it? And um, if you did a session with a client, you could do it through Zoom like this, or you could
Yes.
do it if the person's in the room. But
Mhm.
what can you tell us about just energy healing in general?
In general. Well, energy healing, as I said before, we are all energy beings.
Yeah.
So here's a little bit of quantum physics, right? We are all connected. You, me, the universe, the plants, the animals. So our cells can talk to your cells. And this has been proven by science, actually, where one cell in my body, like in the brain, can talk to my cell in the gut. So it sends cellular signals and receptors, chemical receptors, up to the brain to signal, I'm hungry,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Well, those kind of signals translates across time and space because time and space are made up in a sense because there is no time and space. It is all happening at the same time.
Wow.
Okay. Now this is going to blow people's minds because it's like, what? Huh? It took me a long time to overcome this. Like, what do you mean time and space doesn't exist? It's all happening at once, right? We can be living at the same other timelines all simultaneously. So it's time is what we have made up in a sense because our brains work in a very linear way. So we can only for the most part we can understand things in a linear fashion, not in a 3D all at once encompassing pattern. Okay.
Okay.
So with that, we can tap in through muscle testing, through our own intuition, our own guidance to find out what each and every person might need. So for me, like I tap into you today, what does Casey need for me to help him overcome whatever challenge it is, right? And here is the key though, the art of questioning. That is one of the hardest things to find out the right answer. So it's, like one person had asked me, well, how is COVID, how am I going to, how does COVID affect everyone the same way? And she was trying to ask this as a broad question,
Hmm.
but your body pendulum only has a yes or no, and her body didn't move. And I said, well, that's an open-ended question, right? For some people, when COVID hit, they thrived, they did great, their business took off, right?
Hmm.
Because they adapted to the model. They changed, they got creative, right? And it was really open to Zoom and doing everything online.
Right. Right.
Some people, they didn't do well because they prescribed to the old paradigm where they had to be in person, and everything was old school, like just everyday thing.
Yeah.
So of course their business didn't do well. So here are two opposites for the same question. So when you ask a question, you have to be careful in how you word it and what the question is, so you can get the right answer or the appropriate answer for what you want to know.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm just trying to think if what the correct way to ask that question might be.
So you want to be more specific, say, maybe for me, is COVID going to negatively impact my work? Let's say.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And then that would be a yes or no.
Right. Right. Now it could be a maybe, because it depends on your choices and what you choose to do, right? So then you
There's that
have
free
to,
will thing, right?
yes, there's a free will thing. So now you have to kind of hone it down just a little bit more.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So it's now saying that and talking about that um, and energy healing. Um, what is the idea of remote healing, and what can you tell us about it?
Yes. Yes. Great question. So, since COVID hit, as an acupuncturist, everybody was supposed to come into the office, but we shut down for a few months because the laws were unclear as to whether we were frontline workers or not,
Hmm.
and in the state of California. And so I did not go into the office for a few months, but my patients were still in need. And I had been trying to convince my patients to do remote work with me for years prior to this. But the pandemic really allowed me to say, hey, these are your options. And so we started doing Zoom sessions for everything, for
Wow.
acupuncture, for NAET, for energy healing. Now people are like, how in the world do you do remote sessions
Right.
with
Like
acupuncture, right?
acupuncture, right? Those are needles that you're supposed
Acupuncture.
to do. Yeah.
So so definitely it's not for everyone. Okay. If you're in acute pain, for the most part, you're still going to need to come into the office. Okay. For people who are more subtle and can feel the energetic shifts, then energetic needling will work for them.
What
Okay.
energetic? What
I call it energetic needling. So
needle?
I basically think of the point that I want to work on for you, and I literally put an energetic needle in that point for you. Okay. So
Okay.
let me just show you. So meet George. This is my model. And if you see all these lines, sorry, the light,
That's okay.
all these lines, okay, and
Okay.
points on here, okay, these are all acupuncture points in the body.
Okay.
Okay. And so I can pick and choose based on what you're telling me where you might be stuck. And sometimes I have the patients help me, right? Where I figure out what channel or what meridian they're stuck in, and then I have them pick a point, and it's always the right point for them. So I have them pick a number 1 to 27 or whatever.
Mm.
And then I'll work on that, or I'll have them massage the point themselves, and they can themselves feel that shift.
Wow. So you'll be in a session. It will just be like this. Like,
Yes, just like
is a
this.
person sitting down? Or are they laying down? What is it?
Either way, whatever is comfortable. For the most part, they're sitting down and talking to me. When after, like, let's say I do NAT with them, because we go through the series of breathing passes where
Oh,
we
that
reset
the breathing
their,
exercise.
yeah, where we reset their mind and body to the specific allergen or the sensitivity. Then I can also do energetic needling on them. I do have them do some acupressure, especially if I find that they're stuck on a clearing for an item that we're doing. So let's say egg mix, okay? Let's say eggs, you're allergic to eggs, and we're doing the breathing passes for you. But I find that you're stuck in that area. I'll have you maybe do acupressure on a certain location to help you move that stagnation through.
Acupressure is you're instructing me where to press.
Where to press on your body to kind of release that stagnation.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
this is from what you're picking up on. You're picking the
I'm
energy.
picking it up on my end, and
Okay.
then I work with you. So that's why I have these foot models, and I have my dolls, and then I point to them and say, this is where you're gonna find it, or I share screens, and then they do it. And then I muscle test, and I say, yeah, you cleared it, or no, you need a little bit more work, or we need to find another point to release that stagnation.
Can you go over muscle testing again?
Yes, yeah. So muscle testing is where you ask your body a yes no question. Okay. Now, people prescribe to many different ways to muscle test. The arm, which is you stick it out and you press down, and this shows you your strength. Okay. Now, this I will forewarn you, takes practice to get really good at. Okay.
Right.
But so I'll ask my body, show me a yes. Oh, sorry. I have to be grounded a little bit. That's not my yes. Okay, so show me a yes, right? My yes is strong. Show me a no, and my no goes down. It's weak. Okay. So,
What was the yes or no for though? What?
so that tells me what is my baseline. What's my baseline for a yes? What's my baseline for a no? So when you go and ask that question, your body will say yes to that question or no to that question.
Okay, so that's the, as you say, the baseline.
That's the baseline. So then when you go into your questioning, you know what your answer is going to be. If you know what your yes is going to be like, you know what your no is going to be like to the question you're asking.
Okay, so say we're working together.
Yeah.
Will you give me the question to ask? I know, or can you, from where you are, can you pick up on my baseline?
I typically have the person do their own baseline so that they know how to do it for themselves at home. I can ask the questions on my end, but sometimes people don't, there's this like, does it really work? Well, they want to confirm. So they want to be able to know how to do it themselves,
Okay, yeah, but
right?
if they're usually if they're a lot of them are in pain, right?
Yeah, so there are other ways to muscle test. Some people use external pendulums. Some people use finger tests. Some people use the O-ring test where you have to pull it apart. Okay, so there's many different ways where you can do this kind of muscle testing
Wow,
and asking yes/no questions.
that's really neat. Is there any way to measure someone's frequency other than just your intuition?
Um, so that's why names are powerful. Okay. Um, So typically when I tap in, I say this person's name, or if you're here with me, then I say, okay, I'm working with this person. I'm going to tap into this person's energy. Okay. So I may not have ever met you, but if I have your name, I can tap in with your permission to find out what's going on and ask questions.
And what do you feel?
Um, well, I typically am not feeling because I'm just asking the question. So I want to be impartial.
Okay. Right.
Unless I'm working with them, I don't really tap in as deep.
And what are you looking for if someone's not in pain? Um, what that person just wants to bring their energy frequency up to a positive, or is that
So
how it
most
works?
people who comes to find me, right, there's something going on. It feels like their life is in a falling apart in a basket. They don't know what's wrong.
Right.
They think their car is causing them trouble. They're having problems at work. They just don't feel right emotionally. They don't feel right physically.
Right.
And so then we'll tap in to see what it is that we need to work on and clear.
How can your techniques help people with like past traumas and stuff like that? Or can you?
We can. So this becomes a little dicey because I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist,
But
right?
I'm speaking energy wise.
Yeah, energy wise. So, but tapping in, some of it is from your family. been passed down from generation to generation. We talked about how the mother is passing on to her child, and the child is affecting
Yeah.
the parent as well, right?
Hmm.
Well, it can go back to your grandmother, your grandfather, your all these people can go back generations. So that's where we get into the ancestral and lineage clearing, and depending on which side and why that comes up.
Wow.
Okay.
That's really neat.
Um, but I have to tell you, like there are skeptics out there.
What do you say
So,
to them?
for some people, I just don't even try convincing, because it's not worth going there, because
Right. Why? Yeah. Yeah.
it's just not. Um, I am selective as to who I tell and what I say, because they just, I don't have such a good imagination. I can't make these things up. I just can't.
I got you. Right. I understand.
Right?
Hmm.
It comes through and it comes through. Um, yeah, I don't know what to say, but the one thing that I have trouble with, and is the religious people
Oh,
who really fight back and call it witchcraft or voodoo or whatever. But I'm like,
devilry.
yeah, but I wonder, I'm like, what God would want you to suffer and not overcome in whatever way that is important to you?
Yeah.
You believe in God, you believe in Jesus, you believe in angels and all these things. What's the difference between that and what I'm doing?
It's just being very close-minded.
Because it's still energy, it's still spirit.
Hmm.
You can call it whatever you want. Allah, Buddha, God, Pan, who, whatever. Energy is energy.
Yeah.
Just because you don't prescribe or believe in it doesn't mean it's not the truth.
Yeah. That's going into like the know-it-all range that how can you just take one look up in the sky and think that you know everything? It's just I don't understand it, and you can't have a conversation with someone who knows everything.
No, no, you can't. And so I just leave it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, whatever. I, you don't have to believe me. You don't have to um, want to know what I do, but they keep coming back. Some of them keep coming back because there's something that they're needing from me,
Right.
but they're not willing to go there. So sometimes I have to let them fail and suffer until they are ready. I mean, that's the hardest part about being the healer,
Really.
is you can help them, but when they're not ready, you can't do anything about it.
Mylin, what does it do to you when you encounter someone like that? What does it do to do you have to be careful not to take on some of that? Do you have to ground or do something
I do that every day. So
regardless?
regardless. I do try to clear. So that's why I do a lot of my work is I clear my own self, so that I stay neutral and I can receive and understand the messages more clearly. There are some people that can create a lot of confusion in my field. So sometimes when that happens, I have to step back and just say, hold on, I need to get myself in order. We're going to take a little break.
Okay. Okay. All right. Got
Okay.
you.
Because there's a bit of learning for me and there's a bit of learning for them. And I just have to tell them, you need to do your work. You need to do your clearings, because you're just messing everybody up.
Right. Right. You got it.
Right.
Okay. I got it.
And I
Wow.
just remind them, you got to ground. So there's one thing I want to say, people are like, well, it sounds like Reiki. I feel like the work I do, maybe beyond Reiki, is beyond shamanism, because I dabble in all of it. And so I don't put myself in a constraint. I don't want to call it one thing, because then I'm putting a label on it.
Right. So you've
I'm
taken
open.
from all over.
I'm open to whatever is coming to me that's important, that's needed for myself, for my patients.
Got it. So it's your own from your own experience, your own knowledge, and your own gifts. You taken from
from
different
what I
areas.
learn, right? I'm an avid learner, right? I want to know. I could disagree with you, but I still want to know what you're thinking
Yeah,
so that I can say, well, I don't agree with that for these reasons.
got you.
Okay.
Gotcha. Wow, so interesting. Mylin Tran, everybody. Mylin, let me give you the last time here. You have the floor. Anything you want us to think about, or if you want to wrap anything up, and then let us know how to get a hold of you. This has been fascinating. Always love when you come on.
Yeah. So the one thing I would say is, like I said last week, follow your gut, but keep an open mind, because if you have been doing the same old models of healing and all that stuff, and it hasn't worked for you, are you going to continue to beat that dead horse? Are you going to continue um, down the same road because you're not going to get better, right? I mean, that's the definition of insanity right there, is doing the same thing and expecting a different result,
Hmm.
right? So why not step out of the box and try something that is unconventional? Because what I do can be conventional, but can also be very unconventional. So are you willing to give it a try? Because if you don't try, you might not succeed, right? You will never succeed if you don't try. But so you have to give it a try in order for you to see if it worked or didn't work. And I mean, I do great work, and people expect like miracles like that. And sometimes it can be like that, but sometimes your body just needs time,
Yeah.
right? Change is hard. Change is hard, as we're seeing right now in everything that's going on in the world, right?
Hmm.
Changing how you think, how you feel, what you believe in. Give yourself that grace to acknowledge first that maybe you don't agree with what you grew up with, you don't agree with your family, you don't agree with the politicians, whatever it is. Give yourself grace for that, and give yourself time to adapt to this new way of thinking. Okay. Change is hard. For some people, it is easy. For some people, it is very, very difficult. And that's okay.
Hmm.
Meet you where you're at and be okay with it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right, Mylin, how do we get a hold of you?
Yeah. So you can reach me at thedaoarts@gmail.com, or find me on Facebook through my website, www.thedaoarts.com.
All right. Thank you so much. Terrific
Thank you,
show.
James.
Can't wait to hear what you have to say next. Guys, we'll be right back. Thank you, Mylin.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.